Johannesburg's Mayor Mpho Phalatse joins us now with more on what the city plans to do as part of the memorial for Archbishop Emeritus. A very good afternoon to you and thank you for your time today. Perhaps a good place to start is if you could share the history of the relationship that the Arch has with the city of Johannesburg.
Well, I discovered when I was still MMC for Health and Social Development and I was invited to speak at the St. Mary's Cathedral that this was actually the church where he worked for many, many years as the dean of that cathedral, and he later became the bishop, the first black bishop of the Anglican Church in Johannesburg in 1985. He was also the first black dean of that church. We have a long-standing relationship with the church. It is a sacred space in our city, one that we really, really pride ourselves in. However, it finds itself in the inner city of Joburg, which, as you know, is riddled with all kinds of problems, including crime and grime. And those are things that we've been engaging on for the past few years with the leadership of that church to see how we can turn things around. But this is a church where the Archbishop really started his activism, his political and social activism. He spoke against apartheid at the pulpit at the St. Mary's Cathedral. So he fought the system of the time. He preached many key messages from that pulpit, and it continues to be a very special place in Johannesburg.
And St. Mary's then is such an integral part of the history not only of Johannesburg but really of South Africa. So it is a place in a building that has significance even beyond the city of Johannesburg. You mentioned there about some of the plans that you have regarding the rejuvenation of the area around St. Mary's. Can you talk to us about that?
You know, Johannesburg has so much untapped tourism potential, and there's so many spaces that we've really undervalued and we've not invested enough in. And I believe this is one such space. I mean, for the cathedral to exist in a place that's so dirty is really unacceptable. It's deplorable. And this is one of the things we need to change. So we will immediately start plans to reclaim the inner city that has already been in our plans even when we were in the city between 2016 and 2019. But yet again, we will prioritize our inner city revitalization program, which includes taking back hijacked buildings, giving them to the private sector for redevelopment, keeping the place clean and making sure that it's in order, roads are in order, there's no sewer running down the streets. Any informal trade is happening in designated areas and in line with the city's bylaws, making sure that everybody feels safe and that there's visible policing in the inner city. This will just be an initial investment, after which we will then have to see what else can be done from a tourism and economic development point of view to highlight that area. Of course, there are internal processes that still need to be considered, but we've received a request from the leadership of the church to declare that precinct, the Desmond Tutu precinct, and possibly even declare the building a heritage site. So those are things that we will be looking at.
Oh, wow. That sounds quite amazing, the declaration of that area as the Desmond Tutu precinct. As you say, it's still early days, but the thought in itself is one that will keep his memory alive. Talk to us about the plans that the city has in remembering the Arch as we lead up to Saturday.
Well, as you know, there have been plans for some years now. We knew this day would come, and the Arch was very much involved in planning his own funeral. In fact, initially he had wanted his funeral to be in Johannesburg, but because of the state of the inner city, he decided to move it to Cape Town. But looking at the history of his time at the St. Mary's Cathedral, this will be one of the key memorial service sites, and we will be holding a memorial service on Thursday leading up to the funeral, which will be held on Saturday in the city of Cape Town. Before the memorial service, we started today. People can already go to the church and lay their flowers and wreaths anytime between 9 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock in the evening. We'll also be having daily evening prayers between 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock. Tomorrow, myself and Father Kolane Dwati, who's the current dean of the St. Mary's Cathedral, will be hosting a prayer vigil at his home in Orlando West around lunchtime, and then ultimately we will have the memorial service on Thursday.
And what time is the memorial service scheduled for on Thursday? Is it between that 6 to 7 p.m. time slot?
No. That prayer will still happen at 6 to 7. It will happen at the church. So that's where it will be every day. The memorial service will be at a different time. We will put all the information on the City of Johannesburg website.
Mayor of the City of Johannesburg, we thank you for your time today, Mpho Phalatse, as the City of Johannesburg honors the late Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu.